Hey y'all, I hope everybody is doing well this week. Coming to you live from what I call the hoarder's hideaway here in my house. This is my sort of makeshift workspace since I came home from the office in March while we are in this whole pandemic situation. Before I jump into my video for this week, first of all, this may end up being two videos. I don't like for these videos to get too long, so I may break this into two. I also may be interrupted by a small child. We'll do what we can. I wanted to say that I recognize there are a whole lot of things going on right now. There's coronavirus, there's people at home with kids, there's people's work situations totally upheaved, whether you are working from home, whether you are working a whole lot more because you work in a field that's being affected right now. I know that we have a lot of other things going on with our climate right now. So I understand if you're distracted, if you're having trouble focusing, if you've got 400 things going on right now. I get it. We are there. If I can help you, let me know. Okay. I do understand that people are working under all sorts of extenuating circumstances right now. And I know that we always do, like community college, that's sort of our jam, but we're in even crazier times than usual. So I'm trying to be understanding and work with people. So if you're having trouble, please let me know. So week one is in the books. I have finally gotten through all the discussion board posts and checkpoints. I'm sorry for taking a little bit of extra time with that. We've been working on the fall schedule and making a lot of changes, so I've been pulled in a few directions. Now, all of that said, I really enjoyed getting to know you all. I appreciate the time you took with your posts. And I wanted to address just a few things that have come up in reading those posts. Looks like I'm wearing my ceiling fan as a hat now. I've got to work on my videos. So first of all, a few of you mentioned needing some help with time management. I think everybody struggles with that from time to time. I'm a reformed procrastinator, so I like to talk to students about time management. So a few things that I'll mention. First of all, have some kind of a dedicated time to work on your classes. I know this is easier said than done, but you have to schedule it on the calendar and treat it as an appointment with yourself, and you'll probably have to do that with your family as well, especially if you've got more people at home than usual. I know people are having to share computers and bandwidth and everything else. So it may be a situation where you need to talk to the people you live with and say, hey, these hours on these days are the times that I'm going to work on my class. I use a planner, even though it seems like, hey, there's no appointments right now. I still every night set up my planner for the next day with the things I have to get done and block off that time. I will give a mention to Panda Planner. That's what I use. I'm not shilling for them or anything, but they do have really good inexpensive planners. I used their classic for a long time, and now I'm using a test run of their dated planner. A lot of students like Passion Planner as well. They have an academic version, and both of those companies have free templates online where you can actually print pages, and I think Passion Planner will let you download the entire planner for free to print. But I highly recommend that. I just really like the Panda Planner system. It worked really well for me. It helps you prioritize and be realistic about your time, which is something that I've always struggled with. I feel like I should be able to get a whole lot more done in a short amount of time, and I actually can. So block your time, that you're going to work on X class for X amount of time, or you're going to, do your work for your work day, these X hours, work on your class, these X hours. And remember to schedule in all of the other stuff that you need to do, family stuff, house stuff, taking care of yourself stuff, whatever you do to do that. It's more important now than it's ever been. So block that stuff in and commit to holding that time. I can help with a wide array of study skills, work from home skills. I really recommend having a place where you do your work, even if it's a corner of the dining room table or a spot in one room in your house where you keep your stuff. Even if you have to share it with others, if you just, keep your stuff in a basket under the table, if it's in the really cluttered up back bedroom of your house, like what I've got going on here. But it helps to have a place that where when you go there, it turns your mind toward working. It sort of turns your brain on and says, hey, this is what we're doing now. And it's nice to have a place to keep all of the stuff you need to work on that. Now, I can talk about that at length, more time management skills at length with anyone who wants to hear it. I just also don't want to bog it down for the people who are like, I got this, I'm ready to move on. Another thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is critical reading. So reading skills are, of course, important in all of your classes, but they're especially important in this class. I know that I kind of hit you hard with the first week of readings, but I needed to lay some groundwork. Children of Invention gives you a really broad swath of technological history. The Burke article that talks about all of the inventions and how they weren't a linear path shows you sort of how we get these innovations. You know, somebody sets out to make one thing and they have a lot of deviations and end up in a whole other place. So we get an amazing technological innovation that depends on other innovations and a lot of times isn't at all what that person set out to do initially. So I asked you to read a whole lot of stuff, and the reading schedule, of course, is going to be pretty cramped since we're doing this whole class in 8 weeks. And I know some of you are taking other classes. Some of you are finishing your classes from spring. So I know that the time management is an issue, and then managing all of your reading can be hard. So a few things that I recommend. First of all, annotate. I like to use these little sticky notes if I have a book that is not mine. I also will mark up my text in the margins. I'm a text marker. Books that I own and that I'm not going to be taking back to the library, I will mark directly in. Text that I need to share, I will often take notes along the side or use these sticky notes. And I find that very helpful. You'll also find that helpful for essays when you want to go back to something to reference it in your essay or when you're brainstorming to get started. Going to places where you took notes will help you. So what do you do with those notes? Ask questions. Just say, hey, this seems important. This is a main idea. This will help you really retain information. It's really easy to sort of skim through the pages and, you read 15 pages and realize you don't remember anything. Forcing yourself to stop and take notes will help you pay attention. If you are exhausted, as many of us are, physically, emotionally, mentally, it is also helpful to try reading out loud. I know that sounds crazy, but when you read out loud, you're processing the material a couple of different ways. You're seeing it with your eyes, you're thinking about it, but you're hearing it, you're saying it. You have to pay a little more attention than you would just scanning the pages. Make your reading time short blocks. Please don't feel like, I know that Mother of Invention article was huge. And that's an article that even when I reread it now, having read it semester after semester, I stop and take breaks. There's nothing wrong with taking breaks. And if you're annotating a bit, it's easier to pick up where you left off. So please don't feel like, hey, I have to sit down and have to read all of this in 2 hours. Maybe you only have a short amount of time to do your work, but maybe you read a little bit, you go do a discussion post. You read a little bit, you go plan out something for your essay. So, it's okay to skip between those activities. And that reminds me of something I want to come back and tell you in a minute. Another thing to do when you are having trouble with the material, some of the stuff we're going to read is going to get kind of complex. Of course, look up the terms you don't know, ask questions. You can email me questions. Don't worry, my phone notifications are turned off. If you email me in the middle of the night, it's not going to wake up. Actually, I might still be awake working, who knows. Please send questions, drop questions in your checkpoints. Write your questions down in your notes. And if you're having real trouble with a portion of the reading, slow down. Try paraphrasing it, putting it in your own words, summarizing it, taking the most important information and condensing it down. When you get to the point that you can paraphrase a text, you really understand it. You have to have a full understanding of a text in order to paraphrase it. Now, those are just a few recommendations. I do want to remind you that CCCC has a Writing and Reading Center, and they are doing virtual appointments. So if you want to meet with a tutor, they can help you online. Also, there's my office hours. I do hold office hours on Monday afternoon in Collaborate, so you can hit that link and drop in. If you do come in, please say something on your mic or send me a chat, because sometimes I'm working and won't notice that you've come into the virtual office. So make some noise so that I know you're there, and then I'll turn my camera on and jump in with you. I'm also happy to set up appointments. So if you want to go over something together, or if you want me to go through a concept with you, I'm absolutely happy to do it. I did at the beginning of the class put a doodle link up for you all to fill out a poll letting me know a good time to do collaborate sessions. Any collaborate sessions I ever do, I will absolutely record. But if you want to sit in on one and ask some questions and us have a chat, I am 100% happy to do that. In fact, I would be so excited because I miss seeing people so much. I love being in the classroom. I love teaching online too, but it's been a while since I was in a classroom with people in it. So if you want to do a collaborate session, please let me know. So those are just a few things. I am glad to talk more in depth about time management and critical reading. So just let me know. I can do some videos specific to that, or I can work with you one-on-one. Just let me know. I'm absolutely glad to help. One thing I wanted to circle back to in time management, I meant to talk about the Pomodoro technique. There are a whole lot of different names for it. Pomodoro comes from the little tomato kitchen timers, Italian for tomato, Pomodoro. So one of the really effective systems for getting work done is that Pomodoro technique, also sometimes called the 20-10 method, where you spend 20 minutes working really intensely on a task and then you pull back and take 10 minutes away from it. So you force yourself to get something done in a short amount of time and you hyper-focus, right? So we're not looking at social media, we're turning off notifications on our phone, we are hyper-focused on the task at hand. And then you take 10 minutes to goof off, walk around the block, refresh yourself, and then jump back in. And it's a great way to tackle a task you've been putting off or something that feels really complex, really difficult. And I apply it to the readings too. It's like, okay, let me see how much I can get through in 20 minutes. I'll do it, if I'm having some sort of a work task that's hard. Some grading things are harder than others, take more mental energy and more time. I can Pomodoro that. I can say, all right, I'm going to work on this for 20 minutes. I'm going to take 10 minutes and go watch something ridiculous on YouTube, or I'm going to do this for 20 minutes and I'm going to go run around in the yard with my kid for 10 minutes. So it's a really good way to help you with your time, to help you focus and keep you from getting burned out, because trying to hyper-focus for hours on end, it often doesn't do us favors. Everyone's different. I know some of y'all can do it. I can't do it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about actual technology. First of all, when we're talking about technologies, this is not just specific to this class, be specific about what kind of technology you're referring to, okay? So, when you say, oh, technology is making us less social, you're probably talking about social media, right? You're probably talking about smartphones, but be specific about the kind of technology you're talking about. Not to be too teachery about it. A pen is technology. Post-it notes are technology. Paper is technology. So be as specific as you can about what kind of technology you're talking about and what you mean when you say technology. I believe this week, I need to look back at our schedule, you have an article talking about what happens when we start to not be as careful with our wording and word meanings start to sort of merge, and then what we talk about gets kind of nebulous. So I'll be a little picky in discussion posts and journals and all the places when you say technology. I'll say, oh, what kind? What do you mean? How do you mean that? So I hope that from the first week's readings, you picked up on this idea that technology exists in systems, and that there's, this sort of cycle of innovation, and we affect technology. We affect how technologies are created, and those technologies in turn affect us. So we end up in sort of a feedback loop with technological innovations. I hope that you understand that technological innovation is not linear. It's not like somebody says, oh, I'm going to create blah, and they go into their studio or their lab or their workplace and they just create blah. That's not how it works. So the next thing I want to mention, next week we have in week 3, I need to be careful with my weeks since we're not exactly running on a Monday through Friday schedule here. Next week we have the robot or artificial intelligence essay. And I ask you before you jump into that to watch some excerpts from The Android Prophecy, which is delightfully dated, both in the films it looks at and the people you'll see. And I think it's about 20 years old, I think. It was not that old when I started having people watch it. But the purpose of that little documentary is to look at how technological representations in popular culture reflect our thoughts, our ideas, our anxieties, our worries about technology. So think about that as you decide what character, and it can be film, it can be television, it can be really anything. It can be book, and it can be, not a traditional tech character. And I mean, it runs the gamut. A lot of people write about Wall-E, and I'm not anti-Wall-E, but try to think beyond the Wall-E. We get lots of different characters for this essay, and I enjoy it. I think students can have some fun with it, but think pretty deeply about what the character in question represents. What is it that that character reflects about our society? So there are 2 links to submit it, the assignment link and the Turnitin link. I did, a student reminded me that I had forgotten to put up the MLA formatting document. So that is up. You can see it in the main section, the course content section, and I also dropped it into the week 3 folder. So I'm not going to be super nitpicky about that, but make sure if you quote, paraphrase, any of that, you do it properly. You're not required to use secondary sources for this assignment. If you choose to do so, please use them correctly. You're welcome to use the Writing and Reading Center for this. You can submit your essay to the online writing lab. Totally fine. Wow, this video got long. I apologize. I should have stopped in the middle and done 2. So I'm going to stop here. I may drop back in a little later this week. If you all have questions, please send them. If you want a collaborate session, if you want a topic covered in a video, if you want me to cover a particular reading in a video, let me know. Can you tell I miss being in the classroom? So you all take care. Thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you for keeping up. I see a bunch of you have already blasted through the work for this week. Some of you have already done the essay. If you haven't, no stress. You have the time. So let me know how I can help you. I will have more work loaded to the site. I'm working on week 4 right now, and my goal is to have the full course up on the site. It's all ready. I'm just having to move it all over up for you by the end of the week for those of you who do want to work ahead. So you all take care, stay safe, and I will be back with another video soon. Thanks.